Do you trust your own intuition? Do you struggle to find it? Do you perhaps struggle to hear it? Well, here's an idea for you. G'day, my name's Tim. I am a writer. I am a educator. I am a runner. And today I want to take you over how I think about intuition. The definition of intuition is a thing that one knows or considers likely from instinctive feeling rather than conscious reasoning. My definition is different. Intuition for me is a guttural response. It's a feeling, it's a movement. It's knowing that someone's looking at you when you've got your back turned to them. It's looking up to the sky and trusting the universe a little bit more. It's trusting yourself in the moments that perhaps you shouldn't and you don't have any evidence for, but just knowing your heart of hearts has got you. Intuition is complicated and it's a feeling and it's tricky and it always has been. We don't always get it right, and I think that's almost the point in itself. It's almost like hope. It's this fleeting idea that something bigger than us is going to help us make that decision, but hope is this thing that kind of like dangles that you can't really picture it, but it exists because we believe in it. And intuition is much the same. It exists because we believe in it and we are making a decision even though we're not fully conscious of said decision or why we're making that decision. And today what I really want to introduce you to is this idea that I heard somewhere and I don't know where I heard it and I'm really sorry, but trusting that nudge. The concept is trusting the nudge, and it's a pretty simple concept. It's trusting that thing that keeps pushing you in a particular direction. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and then I'm going to come back to the concept as a whole. But I'm going to tell you a story right now. It was the end of 2021. I had just come off 4 years of teaching full time, and I felt a little bit lost at the end of COVID. COVID hadn't really finished in Australia. I'd spent the last 2 years living on an isolated island, and I had had some great moments in there. And I had had some of the worst moments of my life, all sprinkled in while living on a remote island off the coast of Australia. And then my cousin floated the idea of traveling to South America. I was already considering going overseas, but I didn't know what that was or what that looked like. He suggested Peru. And I didn't really know anything about Peru. I think I'd probably heard of Peru once or twice in my whole life, and I had never thought of it as a place to travel, let alone a place that I needed to go. He floated the idea, he sent through an Airbnb and asked me to join him. And I was pretty hesitant. I was kind of like, oh, I might stay another year. I might do another few years. And I felt like if I did that, I might have got trapped in that little life there. And then all of a sudden, I went to a book fair at my school at the time. I was picking a book for a student and it was a prize for their end of year. And I opened up this book and I turned to page 137. And there, right in front of me, was Cusco, Peru. The exact same city, the exact same place that my cousin had sent me that Airbnb. A place that 3 days before I'd never heard of. This was a new, brand new world to me, and I knew that, and so did he. I looked in the index of that book, and when I tell you, dear viewer, that there wasn't a single other place in South America in this book of cities, I mean it. There wasn't any. And I took that as a little bit of a sign. And then all of a sudden, 3 days later, I had a student come up to me and ask, could they do a project on Machu Picchu? My kids had never showed any interest in South America at all, and all of a sudden they're asking me about one of the most significant places within all of Latin America. Another sign. And then all of a sudden I was doing a run probably another week and a half later, and I was listening to a song, and that song finished, and all of a sudden the thing that loaded up on Spotify next was a travel podcast I'd been listening to of travel writers, and the place that they were talking about was Cusco, Peru. 3 times in the space of 2 weeks. I had never thought about Cusco in my life. I didn't know it existed 2 weeks before. And then all of a sudden, leaning into the universe and accepting that this was the next step, even if I didn't know what it looked like, even if I knew it was going to be messy at the end of COVID, even if I was questioning whether I should go, it felt like the right thing to do. It just felt authentic and real and honest. And I thought if I didn't go, I'd be missing it. And I will tell you now that I went to Peru and I spent 3 months in Peru and then went back a subsequent time. And during that time, Cusco held my heart in a way that I think I needed, but I didn't know that obviously before going. But I trust that feeling, and it has taken me on one hell of a journey, one hell of an adventure. It's made me feel things that I couldn't feel. We fell in love with the place, we fell in love with the people, we fell in love with ourselves again. We fell in love with adventure, and we had a grand old time living in a world that felt really far removed from Western society because there wasn't Western travelers there at the time. We made friends. We lived there. We had this simple life. We had this time that I call the dog days of Peru. I wrote a piece on it in my Substack. I'll link it below. But it was just this really beautiful gravitational period of our lives that held us when we didn't know what was next and we didn't know what to do. And so this idea of trusting the nudge is if something keeps popping up over and over and over again, lean into it. That's when you decide. That's how you know. And over the decades, that's kind of proven true. It's how do you filter out those ideas? We have so many things that we want to do. We have so many things that pop up into our mind. And then we never really know how to distinguish which ones to pick. For me, this idea of trust the nudge, it came up recently, but this is what I've been doing with different language for a long time. It's that thing that if it keeps popping up time and time and time again, then that's the thing that you should follow. That's the thing that, even if it's not the right thing, because at times it's not the right thing. There are times where trusting this nudge will lead us into making mistakes, but you need to trust that that mistake was the mistake that you needed for the next thing further along. The next mistake is the next grand old ability to go and live our life for maybe that next adventure or that next thing. And if you never made that mistake, you never would have got there. But for me, I had come off a period of my life where I wasn't sure what was next, and everything was thrown up in the air all at once. And it had happened a couple of times, and all of a sudden, I bought a one-way ticket. And I trust this nudge, and the nudge of it just keeps coming up. And if it keeps coming up enough times, I feel like that's a good enough reason to go explore it. It doesn't need to be moving to the other side of the globe. It doesn't need to be buying a one-way ticket to Peru. I understand that some people don't have the ability and have families and obligations and all these other things. But for me at that time, that was the right thing. But I'll bring you back to this because when I started this channel at the start of the year, this was a 3-year journey of this thing that just kept popping up. When we first went to Peru, it was actually an idea that we were going to start a travel channel until we both realized, my cousin and I should say, both realized that we didn't have the predisposition to actually do this with our everyday lives. And that felt fair and that felt honest to ourselves at the time. But the idea of starting a YouTube channel has kept knocking on the door for the 3 years since that. And every time I tried to ignore it, it would come back. Every time I would move on to something else, it would come back. And at a certain point, you've almost got to trust this thing and trust that when it comes with a blinding fury, which it often does, it's the right time to do that thing. Yes, I totally understand that there are smaller things and smaller moments of spontaneity that come quick and fast, and you don't have this time to have the repetitive nudge. But maybe you get a nudge and you just kind of go like, hey, I should go to this coffee shop instead of this coffee shop. I can't tell you the amount of times I've gone to one coffee shop over the other coffee shop, and that's where I've met a great person, or I've had a great experience, or I've wrote something that changed how I think, or whatever it might be. And now we all have intuition. We all have those feelings, we all have those things, and I think some of us feel it on a more significant level than others do. And as I said before, it is a skill. It is something that you listen to. And if you listen to it enough and you make those decisions enough, it comes back. I'm a person that's a firm believer that if you dream big enough and you try chase those dreams, your dreams become bigger. That dreaming itself is a skill. Having those goals is a skill because over time you become better at that skill. I think the same is with intuition. My friend Dill got caught out a few times over the course of a winter where he was looking at me from a window and I turned around and I caught him. And he's like, "How do you do that? How do you know?" I, I don't fundamentally know. I'm just trusting a feeling that I have. It's almost like a little prickle at the back of your neck that you know that someone's there and someone's attention is on you, regardless if you want that or not. And that was a fun game that we had. And I caught him more times than I think he'd like to admit. Trusting our intuition and trusting that nudge is something that comes with time. It's listening to the nudge and stepping into the nudge and taking what that ends up being over time because that's what ends up feeling good for us. What people I think often get stuck in with intuition is that there is too much noise in their lives. There's too much noise in their head. We consume so much stuff on an everyday basis that we never actually give a break and we never get enough time to explore different parts of our own like gut and our own feeling and our own head. And intuition for me comes from the heart, but for other people it might come from somewhere else. But I think there are times where we need to get rid of that noise and comprehend that there is times where having a break from having that noise, whether it be going for a walk in the bush or nature, whether it's getting away from people for a while, whatever that might be, and in whatever way that you are given the luxury to do that. Not everyone gets that. I get that. I understand. But maybe finding that, taking a little bit of time to find that. And now I will preface this at the end, which is about a weird sort of concept, but I will preface it with saying that I haven't got this worked out. I get it wrong often, and I'm working on it, and it's something that I'm working on, and I don't think anyone has got this worked out. And as I've said in the past and probably before, everyone is just trying to figure this out at their own pace, and nobody's got their life figured out, and nobody's got the world figured out. Because if somebody did, that would be worth billions of dollars, and nobody's done that yet. We're all just little cogs, and we're all just working our way and working through and trying to work it out the best that we can. But this is just an example and a thought and a little experiment to share with you. This is what's worked for me. It's almost a reflection in a way to trust that nudge. And if that thing keeps pushing, we can go back and we can find it. And I did a little bit of looking online and I did find this concept from many sort of people and creators and idealists. And the one that came up for me, and I think that I found it from, was Eamon and Beck. And they talked about this idea of trusting the nudge too. And so I'm going to give them some love and reference them as I'm going through this video and just saying this idea comes from Eamon and Beck, or at least the language of it for me. But it is something that I've used for a long time in a different way, and it's a different thought process. And I think that just the thought process or the concept alone is enough to perhaps make you approach your bigger ideas and your things that keep popping up over and over and over again in a different way. I've trusted this nudge as an idea, as a writer, over and over again when I first picked up a pen when I was 16 and felt, hey, I want to be a writer, to coming back to it at 21 and starting writing and publishing my work, to when I quit and came back and quit and came back and quit and came back. It's almost like I couldn't put down the pen. This idea just kept pressing on my head. And I felt like I would have been really letting something and people down if I didn't give it a go. And I don't know if that's the right approach and I don't know if that's the right thing, but I am trusting that feeling and that thing that keeps pushing in that direction. And it's the reason I'm here, and it's the reason I'm going to continue being here. Anyway, I've been thinking about intuition for a while, and it's been in my thought process all week, and I just wanted to share it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. It means the world to me. I'm a small channel. I've only just started. I'm getting better at this, and I appreciate if you've watched this far, because that means the world. At least to me, it means the world. Be kinder than you think you need to be. Be kind to yourself. And I will see you back here for next week's video. In the meantime, look after yourself and take care.